Hi, I'm James Posey, and this is my critical race narrative. When I think about who I am today, a black man, a father, a social worker, I could trace that awareness back through very specific moments that shaped my identity. The racial identity development theory helped me look at my own life like a timeline to see how certain experiences became developmental markers of pride, pain, and growth. When I was around 6 or 7 years old, my mom sat my sister and I down for a talk that most children never have to have. She told us that our skin color might cause people to treat us differently in school, in stores, and even in our own neighborhood. At that age, I didn't fully understand what she meant, but I could feel the seriousness in her voice. That conversation was the beginning of my racial awareness. It planted seeds that would later grow into pride and a strong sense of responsibility to uplift people who look like me. Fast forward to the age of 16, a stage Eric Erickson calls identity versus role confusion. It's the time when young people are figuring out who they are and where they belong. For me, that search for identity collided head on with the reality of racial profiling. One night, my friend and I, my best friend at the time, was driving home from hanging out in Hayward, California, which is, a low income like area of California. It was late, maybe 1 or 2 in the morning, and we cut through Alameda, a wealthier, mostly white area. We noticed some people waving outside of a white building with neon lights. We assumed it was a nightclub, so we waved back and kept going. When we reached our friend's block, 2 cars suddenly blocked us in, lights flashing, spotlights blinding us from both ends of the block. Before I can process what was happening, police were shouting, "Don't move, put your hands up." They had their guns drawn. My friend froze in the street, confused, trying to follow commands that didn't make sense. Stop, come here, don't move. Eventually, they cuffed all of us, 3 young black men, teenagers, because we fit the description of suspects in a stabbing nearby at that said club. After 10 long minutes, they realized we weren't the ones who committed that crime. No apology, no explanation beyond "you fit the description." We were released, shaken, humiliated, and forever changed by that moment right there. That night burned in my memory. I remember the sound of my heart pounding, the weight of the cuffs, and the fear of what could have happened if one wrong move was misread, or even taken to jail. After that, I became hyper aware of my surroundings, the kind of awareness that never really goes away. I also became aware of names like Oscar Grant, Trayvon Martin, Verkia Boyd, and others, names that reminded me of how close my story could have come to ending differently. Later, studying sociology and critical race theory gave me language for what I had lived. Critical race theory teaches that racism isn't rare or accidental. It's built into our institutions. That night wasn't just a random encounter, it was the product of a system that criminalizes blackness. Being held at gunpoint for fitting a description wasn't about me personally, it was about a structure that associates danger with skin color. Through critical race theory, I began to see my experience as a counter narrative, a story that challenges the myth of colorblind policing and exposes how bias operates beneath the surface. Over time, what began as fear transformed into purpose. Instead of internalizing the trauma, I turned it into motivation. It strengthened my empathy and my drive to advocate for racial equity in education, in social services, and in law enforcement. It reminded me that storytelling is a form of resistance. By sharing my experience, I'm not just recounting a painful night, I'm exposing the system that made it possible. And that's where healing and accountability begins. Today, I see my racial identity not as a burden, but as a source of power. It grounds me in the community. It grounds me in community, pride, and purpose. I've learned that advocacy starts with, the human voice, and that understanding the systems around us is the first step in changing them. As a social worker, currently I carry that awareness into every interaction, to challenge inequities, to uplift others, and to remind myself that resilience is both personal and collective. Because the same system that once pointed guns at me also fuels my commitment to ensure that others never have to live that same fear. Thank you. And this is my critical race narrative.